In this video, I will be giving you a recap of the entire 7.0 story. This of course means there will be spoilers. If you do find videos like this to be handy, throw me a commendation by liking and maybe even subscribing. But now let's get into the story of 7.0. This time around, the story is split into two parts. The first half being the Rite of Succession, where the current leader of Tuliolal, which is both the capital and combined nation of Tural, is looking for a successor. We are recruited by Wuklamad, who is his youngest child, to assist her in the Rite of Succession, a competition which will decide on the next leader. Kulul Jaja is the current Dawn servant, which is the name of the leader of Tuliolal. He is a two-headed Mamulja, which is also known as being a blessed sibling. The two heads have their own independent thoughts and are referred to as the Head of Reason and the Head of Resolve. Though unknown to us at the time, the Head of Reason actually died some years ago. Kulul Jaja keeps on saying that he's napping, but he's not. Though he is the one who created the plan for the Rite of Succession. In the rite, there are 4 contenders. First is Suralja, the first promise, which is the oldest son of Kulul Jaja and his only biological child. Now it's believed that two-headed Mamuljas are infertile, so Suralja is seen as a bit of a miracle and is known as the resilient son. His goal with the succession is to expand their land, take over the world and make people hate war by making them live through war. I will admit his peace through wars thing never really made sense to me. Next is Kona, the second child of Kulul Jaja, and his first adopted child. Kona studied in Sharlayan and is a firm believer in bringing outside technology to his nation. The third is Wuglamat, the youngest child of the Dawn servant, and again she is adopted. She wants to keep the peace her father created 80 years ago, when he united the people of Tural into a single nation. As before that, there was plenty of war and issues going on the continent. The final contender is Bakul Jaja, a blessed sibling who won a competition giving him the right to take part in the trial. He is in short a major asshole who views everyone else as inferior. Now Kona and Wuglamat are the ones that have the science assisting them. On Wuglamat's team is us, the twins, Krail and Erenville, while on Kona's team there is Thancred and Urianjay. The Rite of Succession itself requires the contestants to go to the different nations of Tural and take on challenges. Depending on the challenge, either finishing it or winning the challenge will net us a keystone to add to one of our 7 stone tablets, which represent the journey of Kulul Jaja as he went across Tural and united the different nations. And finally, we must also find the mysterious City of Gold, which apparently Kulul Jaja knows where it is, but we have to find it ourselves. The first 2 stops on our journey are the Pelu Pelu, which are a nation of merchants, and we learn about their alpacas and customs of trading, and then the Hanu Hanu, who we assist with putting on a festival to help their corn grow. Our third stop is to meet the Moblins, who taught us about their pot packs and how they take care of artisans who make fine crafts. And our challenge was to bring an artisan to them for a new pot pack. In each of these places, we meet the other contestants, with Kona solving things through science and technology, while Suralja through might, and Bakul Jaja through intimidation and cheating. In fact, as we leave the Moblins, Bakul Jaja manages to kidnap Wuglamat and steal one of our keystones. Our next stop is the Yakyu, a race of giants which once ruled most of Tural. They used to have visions of the Golden City, giving us our first major clue about it. In their temple, they are also guarding the great Tural Vitral Valgarmanda. Now, a Tural Vitral is a great beast that has evolved into a twisted way to make it seemingly immortal and highly dangerous. Valgarmanda is known as the Sky Ruin, as whenever it was seen, it would bring untold devastation with its use of ice and fire. Kulul Jaja managed to contain it in a massive prison of ice by tricking Valgarmanda. But while we take on the Yakyu trial, Kulul Jaja releases Valgarmanda. So we end up having to team up with Suralja and Kona to take down this Tural Vitral, managing to vanquish it, as we fight it not even close to its full power. Now during these travels we get to see both Kona and Vuglamad starting to mature a bit, under the guidance and support of the science. Vuglamad learns that she doesn't really have to put on a brave face, and that she is in fact not inferior to her siblings, she simply has her own strength, which is being able to connect with people. While Kona learns that maybe pretending to be so aloof is not going to endear him to his people, and he starts seeing that even though outside technology is amazing, there are also some amazing things within his own nation. The final two places of the competition are both in Yaktel. First in the upper part, which is the home of the Zebral, which are the nation of Hrothgar in this area. With the Zebral, we take part in a cooking competition, learning about how the two warring groups of the Zebral and the Mamulja, who live in the lower parts of Yaktel, were brought together in the past over a feast. We also get to meet Vuglamad's real father here. Kulul Jaja kidnaps her biological dad to try to force her to hand over her keystones, but Vuglamad beats him in a duel instead, causing Kulul Jaja to freak out and run down to the lower area of the zone to Mamuk, where the Mamulja are located, where we also have to go for our final trial. As we go down to Mamuk, we learn that life down there is not easy. Very limited things grows in this forest, which is part of the reason why they've always been trying to attack the Zebral to get to the upper, more luscious plains. We also learn about the origin of blessed siblings. Now these two-headed Mamulja are meant to be natural leaders, but they're not naturally born. In fact, they are born from the pairing of two different tribes of Mamulja. This pairing of two tribes leads to the two-headed children, but they also have a great cost, as about only 1 in 1,000 survives, most of them being stillborn. And apparently Kulul Jaja sees the sacrifice of, well, all of the other children as a burden on himself, and he is simply cracking under the expectation of having to become the new Dawn Servant to give his people some hope. Now the trial in this area is to fight a shade of Kulul Jaja at his prime. This is the final trial, and Suralja is disqualified in this competition, as he did not just lose to the shade, but he actually attacked the Elector, who are the people who bring us the trial. Kulul Jaja seems to just quit the competition at this point, and Kona steps out of the race to join Vuglamad instead to help her become the Dawn Servant. So we managed to beat Shade and promise the people of Mamul to bring them seeds from outside of Tural so they can more easily grow a variety of different food down here. And at last we have all of our keystones, including the one Kulul Jaja stole before, and it's time to find the City of Gold. We do eventually find it. It is under the burial ground for the Blessed Siblings. As we make our way through the old Yakyu mines, we start seeing technology that is unknown to us. And finally, we reach the door. When we reach the gate, Kulul Jaja greets us, promises to tell us more later, and we head to the crowning ceremony, where Vuglamad becomes the new Dawn Servant and chooses to have Kona become a Dawn Servant with us. So Vuglamad becomes the vow of resolve, while Kona becomes the vow of reason. Now after the ceremony, we learn a bit more about the Golden City and Galef Baldessian, which is the main reason Krail came here. Galef was traveling with Kulul Jaja when he found the Golden City, and at the time the gate opened, with 2 Lalafell coming out, handing them an infant, which would turn out to be Krail, and a very unique key artifact, which can open the door. The key is at the moment under the protection of Gathenram, though for not very long, as we also get to see as Suralja attacks Ketanram and takes the keystone and goes to open the gate to the Golden City. But we are wholly unaware of this, and instead we are invited. But we are of course wholly unaware of this. While the siblings are settling into the roles as the new Dawn servant, we are invited by Erenville to go visit his childhood home in Yaslani, where he wants us to meet his mother and mentor, who challenged him years ago to find the Golden City, and now as he has, he figures he should go tell her he has finished his challenge. Together we explore the land of Shalawani, where there is a great abundance of ceruleum and a new train service, though they are currently struggling with some earthquakes as of late. So the train can't run, and we are requested to help repair it. In this zone we also meet up with Namika, who is Vuklama's nursemaid. She has a bracelet that was given to her by Vuklama, but it has been stolen, so we help her get that back, while also learning a little bit about dueling culture and the lives of the people in the area. After the train is fixed up, Namika and others take the first ride, while we wait for the second one, which never comes sadly, as things go terribly wrong. We see the land of Erenville's home and the train's destination become covered up in a bright electric dome, and from the dome come airships using technology unknown to us, but one looking very similar to the one we saw around the Golden City gate. The airships are led by Suralja, who has brought an army of robots to attack Tuliolal. We do our best to protect the citizens and stand helpless as Suralja and Kululjaja fight. But when Suralja falls, he simply comes back to life with the help of a peculiar device on his head. And then it empowers him, giving him the strength to kill his father, before challenging Vuklama to come after him, else he will destroy all of Tuliolal. And then he leaves, leaving those ships floating in the sky above the city, ever watching. Decided on vengeance and on protecting their city, Hona agrees to stay in Tuliolal, while Vuklama joins us to head into the dome. We gather the help of those we have met through the trial of succession to build a special fortified train, which we use as a mobile bomb to blow ourselves away into the barrier. We make our way through the barrier facility, where we enter the former land of Yasulani, now known as Heritage Found. The time within the dome has moved differently. While outside the barrier, mere days have passed. Within it, 30 years have come and gone. We find Erenville's village abandoned in ruins, but do manage to find many of the residents of the area still living in a settlement known as the Outskirts. It turns out that the land of Alexandria, which is the half-sunken abandoned city in the western part of the area, and Yasulani have fused together, trapping the residents of Yasulani within the dome, where they have lived for the past 3 decades. We meet Sveen, who is the Queen of Reason, a partner of Suralja, who is the King of Resolve, though the two do not necessarily see eye to eye. At first she seems quite lovely, and it's clear she dearly cares for her people, and her people really love her. We do know that everyone wears machines on their head just like Suralja did, which he used to bring himself back to life, and it turns out that is in fact their purpose. These are regulators. Within them there are souls which can allow a person to come back to life if they die prematurely from an attack or accident. But they do not prevent death by old age or illness, which we are introduced to as we meet Namika again, who is passing away from old age. Though through her passing, we learn something more horrifying. The regulators do not only handle taking the person's soul and memories after the past, so the soul can live forever. No, it also erases every memory of that person from the other residents of Alexandria. So mere moments after Namika is dead, the people around her have completely forgotten her existence. The third purpose of the regulator, which we learn a little bit later, is allowing the user to infuse themselves with beast souls, allowing them to take on some attributes from the animal. This is used by guards and hunters in the area, but is also what Suralja used to finally defeat his father, and the final boss of the dungeon leading into the dome, when he turned himself into this kind of a snake person. As the more you infuse yourself with the soul, your body can physically change. As we travel through Heritage Found, we meet a peculiar floating robot, which turns out to be piloted by Kakia. That is Ernville's mom and mentor. She is currently running a small group known as Oblivion, which is a rebellious group working against Suralja. And as we share the goal of stopping the King of Resolve, and Kakia is again Ernville's mother, we join up with them and are directed to the headquarters within Solution 9, which is a residential district within the large tower structure known as FFxiv, which we can see in Heritage Found. As we make our way into Solution 9, we meet up with the Queen again, who gives us a tour of the place. We learn about Electro, which is sort of electricity that fuels all of their technology, but we also learn about Levin sickness, a debilitating disease caused by the overabundance of ambient lightning. A disease that has no cure and tends to inflict children. On this tour we get to see both the good and the bad of life within Solution 9. People live in abundance, though some struggle after the Arcadian was shut down, which is the local arena, because all souls are to be used for the war effort, leaving some members of the city to have no reserve of souls to save them if they perish in an accident. Speen is clearly loved by her people and treats them with kindness and fairness, though there are also notable strange things about her. For example, she does not eat, and there is some writing on her body as well, saying things like Service Eternal and Many Souls, One Heart, Alexandria. But after the tour, we make our way to the back room, which is the back room of a bar where Oblivion headquarters are. There we're introduced to Shale, which is the tech expert, and Genold, who is awfully familiar. We do assist the group, including giving Genold an energy drink that is so intense it makes you go Super Saiyan for a second. But we also have a chance of meeting a little Mamulja child, a blue-scaled hobbigo, who seems by all accounts to be Suralja's son, and he is named Galulja. The boy does happen to hear the group talk about our plans to kill his dad and runs away, leading us to search for him both inside and outside of Solution 9. We end up tracking him down in the sunken ruins of the city of Alexandria, where he spends most of his days apparently living with a robot named Otis. Together we make food for some repast and enjoy a talk, getting to know both Otis and Gululja. The boy is apparently in no contact with his father, so he has been living on his own. And it turns out that Otis was not always a robot. In fact, he was once a proud knight of Alexandria, but when Queen Sveen died, they were working on ways to use the power of Electrope and souls and memories to preserve people and make them eternal. And he took part in those experiments, and is one of the main reasons that Sveen walks around today, though this has also led to his current existence as in this artificial body. But he is still the same man within, just has a different outer casing. These experiments were the foundation for the current systems, as when people of Alexandria dies, their souls and memories are separated, and from the memories the person is made immortal in a being known as the Endless, though we don't yet know where the Endless are located. But we do know that Sveen is one of them. It is soon after this that Suralja decides to make another move on Tuliolal. Uglamat confronts her brother only for him to reveal that it was in fact Sveen who orchestrated the attack. all with the purpose of taking life force from other nations to keep her own people living forever. And then he reveals that the Sveen we have walked around with is just an illusion, projected onto one of the mechanical soldiers, confirming once and for all that she is no longer alive in the traditional sense. The attack on Tuliolal does fail, as the city is not just defended by his people and army, but by friends from across the sea, including the dragons led by Vitra. Zoralja turns desperate after this. He needs more souls to make himself more powerful, so he gives the order to have all civilians of Alexandria executed. Sveen is horrified, and Kululja tries to stop his father, but ends up being taken hostage, and Otis, being programmed to serve the king, has to follow him. Meanwhile, we hurry to FFxiv to try to protect the people of Solution 9. The mechanical soldiers of the city have turned against them, killing the civilians one after another, many being killed repeatedly, as their extra souls revive them, only to be killed again. We do manage to save Kululja and many of the citizens, and even Otis manages to regain control over himself, only to sacrifice himself to protecting one of Sveen's copies, even though Sveen can just die and take over a new robot. So that's definitely a sad death, but also kind of a dumb death. But of course Otis did not know this at the moment. We do help the people of Oblivion with the aftermath of the massacre, going through the city and healing people and trying to bring stability back. Then we make our way to the top of FFxiv. We go through Organics, which is the facility where souls are separated and refined, until we make our way to the top of the tower, and there we find Zoralja, sitting on a throne resembling the one in Tuliolal, and above him, a massive interdimensional portal, something we have generally referred to as a void gate, as they lead to the 13th, but this one leads to somewhere else, somewhere unknown. Here we fight Zoralja, who brings all his souls and power to bear, twisting his own body into what he considers a transcended being, and yet he falls. He uses his final words to tell Kululja that his son is free to embrace or spurn the legacy he leaves him, and basically makes the child the new king of Resolve. But that isn't the end of it. As Zoralja dies, Sveen shows up to tell us her final plan. She will be plundering the ether from our world, and other worlds as well, to sustain her endless. She picks up an object Zoralja held, which is the key he used to open the gate to the City of Gold. She explains this is the key to interdimensional fusion, and soon her world will fuse with ours, and nothing will stop her from saving her subjects. And then she vanishes through the portal, which closes behind her. And at the same time, Kakia's robot stops working, as the connection with it is severed. Confirming what Erenville already thought, which is that Kakia is in fact an Endless, having died some time before we arrived in the dome. We do regroup at the back room, where the only conclusion is that we must make our way into Sveen's reflection, where the Endless are located. And the only way to get there is through the gate to the City of Gold. The earring Kyle had with her when she was given to Galef turns out to be a device capable of opening the door, though it does require Kululja's authority, now as the King of Resolve, to open it. And with the gate open, we, Erenville, Kyle and Wuglamad, make our way into another reflection, a place known as Living Memory, a place Wuglamad names the Unlost World. Living Memory is a place where the Endless live. It is a theme park of sorts, split into 4 areas, each themed after a long-lost city or a place in their original home. Here, the memories of people are alive as people. They enjoy their lives here. And in the center of this massive place stands the Meso Terminal, which holds Queen Sween's memories and programming. We do manage to talk to her briefly, but she reveals she intends to delete all of her original memories and personality so she can become a ruthless queen without conscience. Without the conscience she held in life, allowing her to protect her people even better. And then she vanishes as the erasure begins in preparation for the dimensional fusion. Luckily, we are not alone. As we try to figure out how to stop her, we meet up with Kakia, who has the answer. To stop Sween, all Endless must stop existing, and she asks us to help her delete everyone. In his area, there is a terminal which holds the memory of multiple people. And throughout the zone, we travel from one terminal to the next to turn them off, and with them delete all those within living memory, even the places themselves. And as we do, we meet some familiar faces and make peace with them. In the first zone, we meet Namika, allowing Wuklama to say a proper goodbye to her. In the second zone, we meet the original Otis, which is the memories taken before he became a robot. We help him put on a play, and then we wipe that area out as well. In the third zone, we finally meet Kryle's parents. And here we learn about her people. They were called the Milala, and the key that facilitates interdimensional fusion is an old relic of their people. Their ancestors were in fact once the residents of the Source, and more specifically on Aloha Aloha Island, and they lived there until the calamity of frost led them to fleeing to another reality. When lightning threatened Alexandria, Kryle's parents tried to use this power again, but it did not work. So they teamed up with a group known as Preservation, only to realize they intended to siphon ether from other worlds to sustain the future Endless. When Kryle was born, she showed first signs of what we now know as the Echo, and Preservation wished to study her. But her parents managed to bring her to the Source, where they left her with Caleb and the key with Kulul Jaja. And while our time with Kryle's parents is short, Kryle leaves the encounter knowing much more about her heritage and having had the chance to share a meal with her parents, even though the food in these areas has no taste for us. The final area is where Kakia's memories are stored. She and Erinville at last have a heart-to-heart, and Erinville promises to travel to all the places Kakia cannot. And then as the final memory shuts down and living memory looks painfully dead, we return to the Meso Terminal, where we use a program Kakia left us to send our souls into the memory bank, where we can take on Sween herself. We do walk through Sween's memories of Alexandria before facing the Queen. And as we beat her, the final part of living memory dies with her. As we return to our bodies, we watch the sunrise and then return to Tuliolal to celebrate our survival. And now what awaits is rebuilding and helping the people of Alexandria and Tural learn to coexist. Also, there is that little weirdness with Sween's crown blinking for some reason in the post-credit scene. But I mean, that's probably nothing to worry about, right? But that's the 7.0 story. It was a lot, but I hope this recap helps for the time where you want to jump into future patches, or as a refresher, or even an explanation of what was happening if you decided to skip the story. Either way, I hope this was helpful, and if it was, maybe give me a commentation by liking and subscribing. And in the end, all I want to say is takk for að horfa, og the yndislegan dag.